Hi, I'm Liz Reeson. I'm a registered dietitian and hormone health coach. I am a mom of two. I am a busy woman, just like you probably are, and why you're here. If you feel just kind of overwhelmed, there's so much information out there, so many things that you've tried, you don't feel good. You feel like I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, but I'm just not seeing results and I don't feel well, whether you're dealing with stubborn weight, low energy, exhausted, bloating, headaches, irregular menstrual cycles, heavy periods, whatever the case is, the symptoms that you have just don't line up with eating healthy, exercising, trying to take care of yourself the best you can. I have been there and I am there. I'm not going to say that this ever really stops, right? Because I'm about to go through the essentials, the top three essential things to do for hormone balance. And this is really what I need every woman to kind of have a good understanding of, be working on, or already have under their belt, which would be great, but not necessary. I at least just need you to have an understanding and why this needs to be a priority because oftentimes I am working with women and we're going through the foundations of hormone balance method that I developed years ago. That is amazing, works awesome. I developed this as I really learned and healed myself from nutrients, you know, becoming a dietitian. Obviously, I knew everything about diet and the body and what you need. So I was doing that part, but I'm like, I just don't feel well. I was dealing with bloating, with weight that was just there. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. I shouldn't have this extra weight. But it was there. I had bloating, GI issues. I had headaches, migraines actually all the time. I had breakouts. I had irregular, painful periods. It was a mess. Okay. And I was like, this just doesn't make sense. I am a dietitian. I eat well. I'm active. I shouldn't be feeling like this. And so it brought me into the world of functional nutrition and functional health. And if you do not know what that term means, functional, that is totally okay. But basically, what it means is taking the body as a whole, understanding all of the communications, how everything interacts, because that is so key in knowing how to address the problems and then work to heal the body and support it so that these things don't come back. You probably have tried diets in the past, programs, or other things that, it's very black and white. You can jump in and do it, but maybe it's either not effective or it loses its effectiveness, you hit a plateau, or you get to a point where you're like, I just can't sustain this. I can't keep going. What am I supposed to do now? And then you just kind of fall back into old habits. That happens. What makes my program, my method, my goal for each and every one of you is not to, throw something and shift your entire life up, but to take women where they are and meet you there and slowly build upon that, giving you space, time, while also having the accountability, the plan, the recommendations to move you along that path that you want to go to get you the results and to get you feeling a place where you're confident in what you're doing. You can let all of those flashy things on social media, the friends doing, a new diet, a new food program, a new whatever supplement thing, you can just let that pass you over and you can be happy for them, but also know confidently you do not need it because you have your plan, you are feeling good. So that's what I mean by feel confident. I want you to be confident in what you're doing and what your body needs and how you're fueling it. I want you to also, though, be comfortable. I want you to feel comfortable in your body because I think that's the ultimate goal for every woman, right? We have all these symptoms that we obviously want to address, and we will, whether they're nutrient deficiencies, gut health, inflammation, hormone imbalances. We're going to address all of those along the way within the program if we work together. I'm going to still tell you the essentials here, but that's all kind of like the sexy stuff, the fun, sexy stuff, right? Is in the program. But what I'm finding is that I'm getting women in there and they're missing the essentials or they think they're not important. Oh, yeah, I've done that. I don't need that anymore. Like it's just not on their mind. Where it's actually the opposite. We can never forget these foundations. We can never forget these essential things. So um, keep an eye on your inbox. I'm going to be emailing you a checklist, and the checklist is going to have these essentials. going to have more than just the three that I'm going to list here, but I want you to take this checklist and just dedicate the next week to checking things off and working through it. And whether you're looking at the checklist and you're like, I do almost all of these already, that's wonderful. That means, okay, let's go ahead. You are ready for the sexy stuff. You're ready for the program, the foundations of hormone balance. Or if you're like looking at the checklist and you're working through it and you're like, this is really tough for me to do. This one's really challenging. That's an obstacle. That's okay too, because like I said, we never forget the essentials. So even if you're having trouble with anything on that checklist, you're still can jump into the Foundations of Hormone Balance program when you're ready, because we're always going to be talking about those essentials. Whether it's getting enough water in, whether it's taking a good multivitamin on the daily, whether it's, stress management, breathing, something like that, we're going to be always coming back to those essentials. So that's why this webinar right here, I'm bringing you the top three that are most important to me for you to know and to prioritize before joining the program. But this is also, even if we don't work together in the program right now, you can take this checklist, stick to it, really try to get into habit, and you're going to see improvement. Okay, so let's jump in here. Like I said, I just pulled out the top three here. So I'm going to give you the top three. Okay, number one. 75% of your diet being plants. What does this mean? What does this look like? I'm a busy woman. How do I apply this into my life? Let's talk through it. So 75% of your diet being plants. This is the balanced diet. This is the not sexy thing, right? I think you're going to hear me say the word sexy a lot because this is like the one webinar I get to do that on. If you think of diets in the past and how they've evolved, right? So years ago, we were all about low fat. Low fat, and what happened? We ate a bunch of carbs, more sugar, and it was a mess. So the pendulum was all the way over here. Avoid the fat, eat as many carbs as you want. Guess what we've done? We said, oh, that was a total mistake, and swung the pendulum way over to the other side. And what is it now? Don't eat carbs, eat as much fat as you want to eat, right? So, as a dietitian, it's not that I have a problem with the keto diet. I think there's a way that you can eat healthy fats, moderate protein, low carb. That's okay for me, but you need carb. Okay. I don't like it when people are saying keto, don't eat carbs, and they're literally eating meat and oil and cheese. And it's not good. Okay. So, in the Foundations program, we talk all about ketosis. We talk about what's actually going on in the body, because it is so not correct what I don't even know what to call it. I'm just going to call it social media, but it's really everywhere. Even the news will report on stuff, or the internet, you're reading articles, and it's just wrong. Okay, so we're going to talk all about the keto diet, ketosis, and what's actually going on in the body and how we can achieve benefits for metabolism. But right now, we need to understand what the essentials are. What does our body actually need? What does it fuel off? And when we look at diet throughout our ancestral history, it is plants, plants, plants. Now, plants does not just mean vegetarian or vegan. I'm talking, we're revolving our diet around plants, and plants are vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, and whole grains. Now, a variety of plants is good. Majority of vegetables, variety of plants. We're going to talk through in the program, if you're working together, absolutely. Am I really talking through and recommending and giving ideas for easy meal planning, grocery shopping, recipes, all of that. So if that's the challenge for you right at the bat, being like, how am I going to eat more vegetables, or what is absolutely, we'll talk through that. But my easy goal for you to be meeting the essentials and trying to, prioritize and shift would be try to get 5 cups of vegetables per day. And if you try to hit 5 cups of vegetables per day, you're focusing on getting more of something, right? You're focusing on how can I add in more veggies. But what actually happens behind the scenes as well is you're eating less of the processed carb. You're eating less of the maybe the high protein that you're eating before, or less fat, or it just slowly shifts your meals if you're thinking, I need to get more veggies." So that is kind of like my secret little way to like nudge you in that direction. Plus, by having this goal, trying to get 5 cups of veggies a day, you're slowly going to modify your meals and snacks so that when we do start working together in the program and we start specifying about fiber, and I'm recommending certain types of foods for where you are and what we're working on, that's going to be so much easier for you to implement because you've already been kind of shifting your meals to have the amount of veggies in there as you do. So that's this 5 cups of veggies a day is really a good starting goal, essential. Not that you're going to be hitting that and feeling like that's a piece of cake, because let me tell you, this is a goal I have for myself still, and you always should have this. So it doesn't go away. Like I said, essentials stay. We need to keep them priority. So 5 cups of veggies a day, try to aim for that. That's the non-sexy part. That's the essential. So in the program, we're absolutely talking through the sexy stuff, but the types of foods to add in, the fibers to add in, and why we're doing that. But eating that amount, that 75% plants, incorporating those other things, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, you can absolutely eat a grain-free diet. You don't have to have grain in there. You don't have to have gluten in there by any means. I absolutely respect that. But it's not a necessity for me to go black and white and create these boundaries with people's diets. I do believe everybody is unique and everybody's going to feel better with a variety. So that's where it's kind of, I've got goals and I want to kind of edge you into these places, but I'm not going to tell you exactly what to eat because I think right there is a problem that we have with our society and with the diet culture. So that is my first essential, absolutely, mostly plants, 5 cups of veggies a day. On to number 2. I would be shocked if you have not heard of intermittent fasting by this point. I am sure you've heard of it. You possibly have tried it. Possibly you are doing it. So let's talk through what the essential part of intermittent fasting is and what's the sexy part that we'll talk about in the program. So intermittent fasting, again, huge. I don't want to say fad because I'm about to talk through why we're all doing it. Even if you're like, I've never tried it in my life, you have, and you are doing it because it is just natural. But somehow, again, I'm going to say social media, the Western culture, social media has taken a hold of intermittent fasting and made it like this big thing, this big news, exciting thing when it's really not. So let's break it down. Okay. Intermittent fasting, you can focus on, or what I prefer to do, you can focus on the eating window. Doesn't matter what you're focusing on, you're actually achieving the same thing. So that's another little mind trick. Why are we focusing on, oh my gosh, how long are you fasting for? When you could just be focused on, okay, what is my eating window? When do I typically eat? Okay. So hopefully right there, you're like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. That seems a lot more doable to me. So let's talk through what your natural eating window is. This is where I want you to start, is just thinking, what is my natural? When you wake up in the morning, when is the first time that you typically start eating? So let's say you wake up at 6 a.m. Maybe you have breakfast, you start eating at 8 a.m. So 8 a.m. would be the start of your eating window. Follow through that day and think, when is the last time I eat in the day typically? So, and that's okay if you're like, I kind of eat late up until close to bedtime. I eat until like 8. So let's make it a nice, easy eat 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's a 12-hour eating window. So out of our 24-hour circadian cycle, if you're eating for 12 hours, that means you're fasting for 12 hours. Okay. So right there, you intermittent fast for 12 hours. Hopefully, I think 12 hours, that's kind of to me what seems natural. and hopefully easy. So if you're not, if you're outside the 12-hour eating window, I want that to be your first goal, a 12-hour eating window, which means you have a 12-hour fasting window. The biggest problem I have with the intermittent fasting scene um, right now is that it's almost becoming like a brag as to how long can you go in the day before you eat. Like I get people who are like, oh, I don't eat until 2 o'clock, or I don't eat until noon or until 1. And guys, that is not a good thing. Like that should not be a brag. And I think that's the one thing that the fad culture, diet culture has gotten wrong. Because if we think of what's natural for us as human beings, we are active in daylight. Okay. We are meant to eat when we are active because eating was hunting and gathering. We couldn't hunt and we couldn't gather unless it was daylight out. That is when we're meant to eat. It's also not a brag because honestly, this might sound pretty morbid, but it's true. One of the first signs of dying is not being hungry. So, why would you think it's a good thing that your body wakes up, goes through most of the day, and you're not hungry? It's giving you no signs of being hungry. That is not a good thing. What we want, especially if you want a good metabolism, is you want your body, you wake up in the morning, and who knows how soon it is, but within a couple hours, your body's like, hey, feed me, I'm hungry, because that means your body is turned on, it's ready to go, it's moving. If you're not getting that, that's not a good sign. So usually with women, what I'm doing is there might be to the point where like I don't really ever feel hungry. I can go until noon if I 1 o'clock, whatever, and I don't need to eat. We start kind of working in what's a natural shift, and maybe it's 10 a.m, maybe it's 11 a.m. Like I'm not telling you have to eat within 2 hours of waking. I want to see when you're naturally hungry, but if you're waking up at 6 a.m and you're not hungry by 11, I'm going to have you try to have something at that point. So by 11 a.m I want you to, even if it's like a protein drink because you're at work and you can't eat anything, like I want you to get something, just something to get the body going, because then what happens, what I see with women, all of a sudden they're like, "Ooh, now I'm hungry by 9." Like, good, that's a good sign. Your body's waking up. It's going. Like, this is what we want. We want hunger. Okay. You want to be hungry. All right. So that's my little spiel on that. So let's say that 12-hour eating window, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., let's say. If that's easy, pizza cake for you, great. I want you now to go to a 10-hour eating window. Okay, so whether you're pushing that morning a little later, whether you're pushing up the eating time, so maybe if we go 10 hours, maybe that's like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, again, in the Foundations of Hormone Balance program, there's a lot we can do with intermittent fasting. And I'm absolutely up to date on the research, on the benefits, and on the length of times and all of that. And I think most specifically, what I'm working with women when it comes to intermittent fasting is understanding how to tweak and modify it on your cycle. So based on where you are in your cycle, what your hormones need, what your estrogen prefers, what your progesterone prefers, what you'd want around ovulation, that's where we can really kind of modify our eating window and our intermittent fasting to really amplify the hormone benefits, but then also the metabolic benefits and burning fat. So that's the sexy part, right? So once again, that's the sexy part. We'll get to it. Right now is the essentials. Get into that 12-hour eating window. See if you can get to the 10-hour eating window. Again, it's okay if you can't. There's things that we can do to kind of help modify and get the body into a range. But ideally, I'd like you to get to that 10 hours um, while we're working together. Okay. All right. So that was number 2. Now on to number 3. So, stress. Stress, putting a lot on your plate, being busy. This is always going to be my biggest area of focus for myself personally. Also just a passion of mine because I think it's one of those areas where it's has a huge impact on our hormones, has a huge impact on our energy. However, I just love seeing the change in the women I work with, in their mood, in their happiness, hearing them say, my husband just told me how much I have changed. He just told me he can't remember the last time I lashed out. He can't remember. He just notices I'm so much more calm and at peace. And like hearing those things just melt my heart because I know that it's affecting everybody around you who you love, who maybe right now you're like, I feel like I am this ticking time bomb. Nobody can understand me. I might, be in a total mood. I might blow up. And I just want to feel like happy and calm and peaceful. So that is why stress to me is just such an important area to focus on and not to forget about, even as a dietitian. And I think I can thank my first job as a dietitian. I was at a hospital system and weight loss program, and I worked so closely with behavioral therapists with patients that like I learned all these wonderful techniques and benefits of the behavioral therapy side. And it just really helped me to see how we can mesh together and really support someone's life, their day-to-day life. Because I don't like people looking at me seeing a diet, like hearing dietitian and thinking, oh, she's going to give me a diet. Like that's just, maybe that's kind of the classic dietitian, but that's definitely not who I am. So let's talk through stress. Let's talk through this essential. Now, why is stress so incredibly important and such a huge impact on our hormones, our sex hormones, when I say that? When our body experiences stress, and this is anything, this is kids are crying, this is big presentation at work, this is late to a meeting, this is overwhelmed with life, with emotion. It doesn't matter what the stress is, it's all the same response within the body. And that is why chronic stress has become, and just lives being busy has become such a huge issue and a chronic health issue because the body responds the same way. And when the body is responding, what happens is, I'm going to totally simplify this. Now, in the program, again, we're going to go in much more detail, but I'm just really simplifying this to say when we get stressed, the body produces cortisol. Cortisol we'll call our stress hormone. Now, cortisol is produced, and the body, cortisol is awesome. Okay. We need it absolutely. Some women are depleted, and that leaves them very depressed, low energy, exhausted, all of that. So we need cortisol. Cortisol is kind of our natural cup of coffee in the morning. We can ride that energy out, and then it diminishes by the evening so that we can fall asleep. It is absolutely essential, and the body knows that. The body needs, its number one priority is to produce cortisol. Now, what happens if you keep alerting the body throughout the day? I need more, I need more, I need more cortisol, more cortisol, more cortisol. And it leads into the next day and the next day. And you kind of hit this cycle. The body can't keep up with that. And the body actually, sadly, I wish it didn't do this, but it takes progesterone, and we call it the progesterone steal, but the body can take progesterone and turn it into cortisol. So you're stressed, unmanaged, especially around the time in your cycle with ovulation or in the luteal phase, your body just takes that progesterone. You don't get the benefit of progesterone. It just turns it into cortisol. Now, the bigger issue that happens with hormones is progesterone's a natural check and balance with estrogen. So if your body is taking progesterone out, you're going to end up with low progesterone, which is its own problem. But low progesterone also allows for estrogen to become dominant. Estrogen dominant, Google those symptoms. Google estrogen dominant symptoms, and you will find basically all the symptoms women equate with hormone issues. And a lot of women, I would say, if you look up those symptoms, a lot of women will read those symptoms and be like, oh, yeah, isn't that just normal? I'm supposed to feel overweight and tired and bloated and mood swings and insomnia and like it's not normal, but it is actually, I shouldn't say that because normal means common. Did you know that? Normal actually means common. So yes, estrogen dominance is normal in the fact that it's very common. It is not healthy, and it's not a place that you have to be. But unmanaged stress is how that happens so easily in women, and why women are so impacted by stress, where men, yeah, they're impacted, but it's cortisol that's impacted. It's not this whole sex hormone waterfall effect that just leaves women in a terrible place. So this is why, unfortunately, women have to be a lot more diligent on stress management. So this is the essentials, okay? Foundations, we go much deeper into this. We're going to talk through, specific adaptogen herbs that we can try for energizing, for calming, for just really affecting and working with our body's HPA function, the brain, adrenal, cortisol production. So we're going to go into all that sexy stuff. But right now is the essentials. So what can you be doing for stress management? Basic essentials that are absolutely important and always a priority. And like I said, always one of my mountains that I have to climb. Okay, deep breathing is the practice I want you to do. Now, don't just throw that aside and say that sounds irrelevant or too small to have an impact, because let's talk through why deep breathing. And this doesn't mean that's a deep breath. I don't mean take a deep breath. I mean deep breathing. So, deep breathing is a mindful practice. And the reason it is so important, and I find the biggest mistake women might make that maybe don't get full results in my program, is they dismiss this. They think that this really isn't that important and that they don't need to do it. But this is why. Deep breathing, taking a moment, being mindful, and actually giving a couple slow, deep breaths. What that does is it is the only way to communicate with your body internally to let it know things are okay out here. So I'm not saying get rid of your stress, because that's impossible. And that just doesn't happen. But becoming more aware of your stress, incorporating mindful deep breathing exercises that take you 10 seconds. Guys, I'm not talking sit down and close your eyes and, meditate for 10 minutes. 10 seconds. So you can do this. You can do this right now and see how easy it is. But what you need to do is then in your day, when you're acknowledging like that was stressful. Oh, glad I got finished with that. When you kind of get those moments, incorporate the 10 seconds of deep breathing here, quick, I'm about to talk through. You're going to feel the effect. You do that more and more often, guess what? That cortisol starts to be more managed. Now, it's true, depending on where you are, you're going to need additional help for a while, but this is essentials. Essentials never change, okay? Whether you need additional help right now, you're still, once you get to a healthy point, you're still going to need these essentials. You're still going to need this practice. So, incorporating the deep breathing when you notice periods of stress is important, because you need to trigger that parasympathetic nervous state. And you're not going to trigger the parasympathetic nervous state any other way but by slowing down your breathing. Okay. Hopefully this sinks in and you're gonna do this, because I need you to understand the importance. Okay. So the method that I recommend doing, because it's super simple to remember and it will take your mind in for a second, 10 seconds. The method is called 3-3-3. So what you're going to do, breathe in slowly through your nose for 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3. Hold for 3. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out slowly through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 3-3-3. I added an extra second in there, 10 seconds total. That is what I want you to do. And please do not think that this does not have an impact, because activating that parasympathetic nervous system, extremely important. But it is essential, non-sexy. We're going to talk about the sexiness, the adaptogen herbs, all the other things that can definitely help our body cope and manage stress. But we can't forget the deep breathing. We can't think that a supplement or an adaptogen herb or anything else is going to take place of our breathing. Okay, so we need to be doing this. And ideally, I like to kind of work up to like a 5-5-5. But if you're like, I can't hold my breath, I can't do all that for 5 seconds, that's okay. Just start with the 3-3-3. You're going to have the same benefit. Okay. All right. So those are my top 3 essentials. Again, check your inbox. I'm going to send you the checklist that's got more things on there, but understanding how hormones communicate with the whole body. So when I say foundations of hormone balance, absolutely, I'm talking about sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. I'm talking about cortisol or stress hormone, but hormones themselves are actually communication. There are so many more hormones going on, and it's our body's way of communicating. So you'd like to think hormone balance means the body is in balance. The body's communication systems are working as they should. And guess what? Because I know this is probably the biggest thing women want to work with me for. Guess what is a communication system? Metabolism. Okay. So, absolutely, we get into metabolism too, boosting metabolism, metabolic effects, hormesis effects, all that fun, sexy stuff we will talk about. I love it. Plenty of room too in the program where we're just talking, and any topic you have, anything you hear about or read, like bring it to me and we will talk through it, get my opinion. It's just a really fun experience. I absolutely love this program, and I've loved the results that women have had, and I built it for the busy woman. I have built it for you so that it is not overwhelming, that you have space and time to incorporate and move at your own pace so you feel very comfortable with what's going on. And it's incorporating these habits and changes and learning and feeling empowered and confident and comfortable. So by the time that we're done in the program, you're like, I don't feel like I'm, like, doing anything hardcore, you know? It's not this whole black and white thing that as soon as we're done with the program, you're like, "What do I do now? What's going forward?" There's going forward is just keep going. You got it. It's like teaching a kid to ride a bike, right? You're like, "Oh, all this stuff, do this, do this, do this." And suddenly you're like, "You're doing it. Go ahead. You're good to go." So that's what I love to hear too from women is they're like, I everyone keeps asking me, "What diet am I doing? What am I, what workout am I doing?" And you're like, just I don't know. I feel like I'm just living life and enjoying it, and I'm feeling healthy, and I'm doing, eating healthy, living healthy, and that's it. Just being healthy. So that's where I want every woman to be when they're done. I want it to be very easy for you, feel like it's almost effortless, although you are prioritizing things like we just talked about. So, all right. I hope to see you soon and work with you. I will send you that stuff in your inbox. I also had some recipes in there too that I love, hormone balance, and kind of get you intrigued. With food and learning more about what you can do with food and your hormones. But reach out to me with any questions. And like I said, thank you for being here, and I hope to work with you.